Hello, welcome to Full Record Jacket, or in this case, full plastic CD case. I'm Phil, and this is Ben.
That's me.
And we thought we'd do one of our ranking things where we just have a friendly discussion and try to put the albums by a particular band in order of greatness or preference, or however we want to agree it. And we just thought we'd do some bands that some people may or may not have heard of. So, yeah, okay.
Who
It's
are
the
they?
obvious one. But you see, everybody who watches this channel probably knows these albums. This is the one band which, of all of them, there's 13 albums. I think it's 13. And our viewers are more likely to know these albums than perhaps any other band that we could have randomly grabbed with a sizable catalogue. So we're going to do it. We're going to rank them. And I'm just going to mix them up a bit like a deck of cards. I'm doing this with the old CD cases because they were just easy to grab to hand. And I'm just going to mix them up like a deck of cards.
Go on then, hit me with it. Deal me.
And we're going to do this by taking one out, and then we're just going to sort of negotiate the position in the pile.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes when we start. So I'm going to take the one off the bottom that's on the bottom. And that is With the Beatles from 1963. In the US, of course, it came out as a slightly different track listing. It was called Meet the Beatles. It was the first one released over there, but this is we're doing the British albums here. So With the Beatles is there. You want to know what the next one is that I'm going to pull out? We're going to put these three in order to start with.
Go on then.
So the next one coming off the bottom is Beatles for Sale from 1964.
I think With the Beatles first. Then the Beatles for Sale always reminds of. I just always think they're tired. They seem a bit tired.
That's the argument on that album. You see, the thing is, I've got this thing. I mean, the thing is, I like all these albums, but I really like this album because I think it was a little bit of a step forward in the songwriting, and it's got some really great songs on it. It's got No Reply from Lennon. Yeah. It's got McCartney doing I'll Follow the Sun. It's got some slight experimentation. McCartney doing What You're Doing with the drums, where it's recorded. So it's kind of, but it is an album that they had to rush to finish because of the contract, and they did fill it out with some rock and roll covers, which, I mean, some of them are outstanding. Lennon's Rock and Roll Music is outstanding. McCartney's Kansas City is outstanding. You could argue that Ringo's Honey Don't and George doing Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby are not the top drawer of Beatles rock and roll covers. But overall...
but then With the Beatles had covers.
It did have covers. Again, some good ones. Please, Mr. Postman, and
All My
You
Loving.
Really Got to Hold On. You Really Got to Hold On.
All My Loving was the original track. My bad.
Yeah. So, this is quite a hard one, isn't it?
I'm going With the Beatles first.
I'm going to say, okay, I won't argue with you because there is an excitement on this album, which is perhaps not on Beatles for Sale.
No.
So we're going to keep With the Beatles on top for the moment. What's coming out of the bottom of the pile?
Oh, what's coming out the box? What's in the box? Delve in.
You ready for this one?
I'm ready. Oh,
Miss Abbey Road. Where are we going to place this? Now, you see, this is interesting because I remember, if we go back to the 90s, who read like NME when they did their greatest albums of all time?
Yeah.
For a long time, critics ranked Sgt. Pepper as the greatest Beatles album from the moment it first came out. And it was ranked very highly for a long time, even up into the 80s. And I think it got ranked quite highly in the 80s. It had the 20th anniversary. And then they started to go a bit cool on Sgt. Pepper, and Revolver came into the fore for critics to say this was the Beatles' greatest album. And so in the 90s, the critics tended to like Revolver. But what I've noticed in recent years, and this is borne out by Rolling Stone magazine recently, and I think I've seen this on some listings in this country as well, is that Abbey Road is being described by what you might call the millennial generation as being number one.
An iconic cover.
Now, it has got an iconic cover. It's got an advantage in that its sound is more like, it's closer to a modern recording because it was a more sophisticated technology at that point. It was a
stereo recording, wasn't it?
Nice stereo, nice, really good sound balance by George Martin. It sounds more like a contemporary record than these old 60s albums do. So I can't help thinking that's part of it. But, again, I mean, I love this album.
It's hard, isn't it? This is hard.
But you could argue that this was the Beatles slightly past the creative peak in some ways. Although George Harrison was on a creative peak at this time.
Yes.
John, you could argue, wasn't. Not to say I don't like, Come Together's outstanding. I think I Want You, She's So Heavy is great. But you could also argue that they had to stitch together a few leftovers, but they made the medley, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So what can you do with that? Are we just going to, I mean...
It's going in front of With the Beatles.
It's going
in front.
It's
going top. Have you got to hold all 13 albums up?
I'm just wondering how we're going to do that. No, we're going to put Beatles for Sale down, but we're going to remember that that's currently third place. And I'll keep the stack here. And I'll
remember that one.
I'll remember that's third place. Okay, so let's go for
delve back in. All deep. Look to the left.
This at least might be a little bit easier for us because it's Let It Be.
Still good. Still good. I prefer that to With the Beatles.
Depends what mood you're in, doesn't it? It depends if you're in the mood for early Beatles.
Yeah, I would say that would be my second, but I can be voted out.
You're saying that that's second to Abbey Road.
Yeah.
I'm saying that With the Beatles has got amazing energy and it's got the excitement of the early Beatles.
I can feel that. Maybe it's because of that the Let It Be documentaries made me see it in a different light slightly.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I appreciate it maybe now more than I've ever done before. But then I could say that of With the Beatles. It's a tough one. I'm going to say...
We'll go third. I'll say third. I'll go third because I think that's what you're... And I'm willing to let it drop down to third.
I'll tell you what, because it's... See, I do like to not forget the early Beatles because the early Beatles are great.
Yes.
And I don't like to just say, it's only the mid-period on that's cool. This is an amazing LP from 1963 by a band who changed everything at that time. A massive phenomenon. So, I don't know. I may be prepared to give way with you on this on the basis of which one would you listen to the most? I think at the moment for me, this is what I would probably still listen to With the Beatles slightly more than Let It Be, but it's marginal. It depends what mood I'm in.
We'll go Let It Be third. Drop that down into third. That pushes Beatles for Sale down to fourth.
Now I do have to ask the question then: is Let It Be better than Beatles for Sale?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you have that one then. So
cool.
That's currently
we can go there. Compromise. A relationship's about compromise, Philip.
We're going psychedelic now.
Oh. See.
And this is part of the canon, of course. The Magical Mystery Tour is now considered part of the canon. Of course, it was only originally an American LP, but these songs are not on any other British LP, so it's a beefed up EP, but it is 11 tracks. So it's an album.
Really like Magical Mystery Tour. Because of the beefing up of it, because it's been beefed with Strawberry Fields, etc.
Oh yeah,
I think it's a great body of work. Yeah,
yeah. I have to say that I mean, don't get me wrong, I like all these records. The psychedelic stuff, again, I have to be. Depends what mood I'm in. But I think in terms of some of the creative brilliance that's on this, with I Am the Walrus and Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, and The Fool on the Hill. I mean, if I wanted to be devil's advocate, I could argue that there are some songs on it that are not of the highest of that standard. But having said that, With the Beatles is not. So I think With the Beatles is going to have to drop out of this, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
So that's going to have to drop out of this. Yeah. Where's it going in comparison to Abbey Road?
It's below Abbey Road. I'll agree with you on that one.
I agree with that because I'm going to say, as an album, as a listen all the way through, Abbey Road works so well.
Works better, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, where is With the Beatles in comparison with Let It Be? Is it?
It's on top. It's on top
of Let It Be.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
Yeah.
Right.
Leave it there.
Next one. Here we go. You ready for this?
Oh, I'm tense.
It's Revolver.
Oh. Why, Phil? Why did you do that? That's my number one. It's up there. It's probably my favourite Beatles album.
I'm going to say that I can't argue with this because when you look at this list of 14 songs,
I think it's a more complete body of what I think they're all on it. That's my professional opinion.
I'm not going to argue with that. The only thing that I could criticise is the fact that if you listen to Abbey Road, it really does seem to flow well as an album. When you listen to Revolver, it's 14 songs that are, it's incredible quality of consistency of songwriting, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a flowing album as much as Abbey Road.
I can understand that one. I can understand that.
But given the level of creativity on these songs and the fact that McCartney and Lennon are both at a very high peak on here, I'm going to have to agree with that one. So that's our current top three.
That's our current top three. There's probably people watching this having a fit right now.
I would imagine so. No one's ever going to agree on this, are they? So we'll put Magical Mystery Tour. Magical Mystery Tour is in third place.
It is in third place.
So what? I've just realised that there is one that I've not got. Well, I have got it, but I need to go and grab it. But
we could just pretend that you've got it.
Ready for the next one?
Go on then. Oh, what's it going to be? Oh, Phil, why are you doing this to me? You're batting it out the park. You're coming in with big hitters. Whack, whack. It's my number two.
I must admit, this is one of my go-to albums for listening to the Beatles. If I just want to hear the Beatles sometimes, for me, Rubber Soul is one that I go to. I'm not saying it's the best album. I'm not saying it's the most consistent album, but I do like the sound of Rubber Soul.
Yes, and I think everything about it. The cover is
it's
probably
groovy.
Their best cover.
It's certainly a fantastic cover. I can't argue with that.
Great hairs. They've all got great hairs. All four of them have got great hair on it.
It's very 60s the way they wrote Rubber Soul as well.
Yes, yeah.
So is it going?
That could have been a double album with Revolver. I think the two of them, and I'm glad they didn't make it a double album because I think, it's my second favorite Beatles album. So, but
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with that because of the moment. The creative 1965.
Yeah, I think that
super cool.
Yeah, I think you've got the bit where they're just coming from being those floppy-haired teenagers into this creative monster,
and I think
that captures. But then again, it's not. I would say the songs on Abbey Road are probably slightly better.
There's more diversity maybe on Abbey Road, but it's this Rubber Soul is the band at the height of coming into the height of their creativity. Abbey Road is a swan song by the band.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Rubber Soul at 2.
I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to say that's fine. So okay,
go on then. By Abbey Road.
Right. I don't think this next album is going to threaten these two. I don't think it will. Ready?
No.
Help.
No, it's not gonna threaten. It's not even. No.
So the question we have to ask is, where is Help going to go in relation to Abbey Road? Is it better, or
I think it's bottom of the pile at the moment.
It's below Abbey Road. It's below the Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's below with the Beatles?
Yeah, below with the Beatles. I think it's on par with Beatles for Sale. I mean, it's a good album, and it is a sort of, it's got Ticket to Ride on it, which is probably one of my favourite Beatles songs.
Yeah.
And it's got Yesterday on it as well, hasn't it? So.
Yeah, I do like it. I've also had a big thing. I do like The Night Before.
Yes,
particularly the mono mix. But let's not even get into the mono mix
because wasn't it released the same year as Rubber Soul? I'm sure it was released.
It's summer '65, and Rubber Soul was the autumn. So where is it going?
Crazy.
Do you know what I feel tempted to say here?
I think
because of the number of original songs,
it's going above with the Beatles.
That it should be above with the Beatles.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. Yeah, we agree.
Okay, so we have still got this as the top two.
Yeah, top two.
Coming in to try and knock them off, but it's a very young album. I don't think it's going to do it. It's Please Please Me.
Oh, I love Please Please Me. Recorded in one day.
Yeah, exactly. This is it, isn't it? It's got a vibe of its own, and it's the album that introduced the world to the Beatles. How could you not love this album? But I don't think it's going to knock these two, is it?
It's not going to knock those two. I think it's probably below Abbey Road, maybe below Magical Mystery Tour, and in front of everything else.
It's very difficult to compare these two records, isn't it? Because let's face it, they're so massively different. And to think how far apart they are.
But so close in years, but so apart in musical terms.
Yeah, just a few years.
But I'm going to say just the simple fact of there's more original stuff, if not all original stuff, on Magical Mystery Tour.
The greater creativity has got to win out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Magical Mystery Tour is still third on our list, I think.
It is, yeah. And there's a lot of people out there probably smashing their YouTube subscriptions.
So where are you putting with the Beatles? Where are you putting Please Please Me? Are you putting it with those? Where is it going there?
Please Please Me will go underneath underneath Abbey Road. Is it? Yeah, because
we had Abbey Road above. We had Abbey Road above Mystery Tour.
Above Mystery Tour. So it's below Mystery Tour then. Below Mystery Tour.
I think we did anyway.
We'll work it out. It's below Mystery Tour.
Please Please Me getting a very high ranking here.
Yeah.
That's probably the most controversial ranking we've got at the moment, I reckon, out of those.
Oh, yeah. All about controversy. It's all top two. Gonna take a lot. Oh, why are you doing it again? Why? Oh, God, I hate my life.
Do you know what? This is so hard, but do you know what? If I had to rate these in how much I've listened to them,
the White Album would be below those two for me. You're ranking it on top.
For me, it would be on top. I'm not saying it's better, but I have this sort of thing about the White Album that I do love the White Album, even in all of its craziness and its.
I really love the White Album. I've got it on a Russian import. I do like it because obviously it's a double album, and I like the song that everybody hates, which isn't really a song. It's just a collage.
Piece of musique concrete, I think.
Yes, yeah.
I don't object to the Revolution 9 for what it is, but anyway, where is this going to go? Are you
It's
saying
not.
it's still not the flash of creativity that is Revolver? Are you saying that this is?
Yeah, I think Revolver's an accessible album. Everything about it is. I'm willing to put it in ahead of Rubber Soul, but that hurts.
Yeah, kind of. The idea of Rubber Soul and Revolver being the greatest albums kind of works in a way because the one was right after the other, and it's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
in the middle of their career. So it kind of works as like this was the peak of the mountain. So that's kind of I kind of see where you're coming from. But,
It's going to. I will compromise and say it can go ahead of Rubber Soul, but that is. You are breaking my heart, and I'm not sure if we can be friends after this.
I'm not sure whether this is. I mean, I could. The thing is, it's a much longer album than Rubber Soul. It's about 3 times longer, so you get, you get much more music. If I had to take one to, if I could only take, you got to think about this in terms of you can only take one to a desert island. Which would it be?
It's going to be Revolver for me.
Okay, but out of White Album and Rubber Soul, which is going to the desert island? Difficult
Rubber
one
Soul's
because
got Nowhere Man on it, hasn't it? I love Nowhere Man. And All My Life, is that on there? Is it? No, it's All My Life that's on there, isn't it?
In My Life is on here.
In My Life, yeah. Oh, if I'm
and
on a desert island,
Drive My Car. And my favourite one that's people don't often talk about, The Word, is on here as well.
Yeah, I love, oh God, we can't be friends anymore. Friends wouldn't do this to each other, Phil. I'm willing to compromise because we have had compromise. I'm willing to put it above because if I'm on a desert island and I've already got Revolver, maybe I want something a little bit different, and I'll take the White Album.
Okay, let's do it that way then. I must admit I'd find that hard to do. Okay, so at the moment, Rubber Soul, the White Album, and Revolver's on top.
Yeah. Oh, what's next? Ooh. Good album. Hard Day's Night.
For me, one of my favourites. For me, probably my favourite of the early years.
Beatles stuff, yeah.
Because it's energetic and it's also got a very high level of songwriting and it's all originals as well, which helps.
And only about half an hour long.
It's half an hour. It's great. I think, I'll tell you what, I'm not saying it's better than the 3 we've just been talking about, but I'm saying that I would find it difficult to choose between this and the current number 4.
Abbey Road.
Because there's just so much excitement in this record.
Yeah.
But there's some real sophistication and fun in the other one. So
I would say I probably prefer Abbey Road over Hard Day's Night. And for that reason only, I'd probably slip it in behind.
Okay, so I'm prepared to let you have that. That's fine. I'm quite happy with that. Are we then saying this?
Oh, it's too hard. This is torture. I'm going to say. I don't know why you're laughing. I hate you. No, I'm going to say it's ahead of. Oh, but I really love Magical Mystery Tour. I think it's slightly ahead of Magical Mystery Tour.
For me, I would listen. Not that I don't like Magical Mystery Tour, but I would listen to A Hard Day's. I probably have listened to A Hard Day's Night many more times than Magical Mystery Tour.
I think I would put it above Magical Mystery Tour.
Okay. Did you notice which one was missing?
Is it? Well, there's 2 missing.
I'm not counting Yellow Submarine because it's
good, because that would be right at the bottom of my pile.
Yeah. It's not enough. There's not enough Beatles songs on it to call it an album.
No, it's pretty awful. If we're
honest. Give me 2 seconds.
Oh, here he goes. I'll fill in the gaps with humming. Mm-hmm.
So, can you remember what is the one that's missing? Which one haven't we talked about?
Would it be Sergeant What's-His-Faces and his... That's the one. For me, it's probably What was our top three again? It's
Revolver,
yeah. Then
Revolver, White Rubber Soul,
and then what was 4?
Abbey Road.
I'd say it's just ahead of Abbey Road. I'd say it's 4th place. It ain't getting a bronze medal. It's crossed the line too late.
See,
in fact, do I like Abbey Road more?
do you know what? I personally probably have listened to Abbey Road more, although, of course, I'm also willing to admit that Sgt. Pepper was obviously, at the time, more revolutionary. It was more of a step forward. It was more of a cultural phenomenon at the time.
Yeah,
It was the biggest phenomenon. I mean, for us now, years later, to be putting other albums above Sgt. Pepper, for people who were around at the time, that might seem sacrilegious, because in the 60s, this was just something else, man. You know,
it was, and maybe it's just become a little bit tired over time.
Yeah, or too hyped. That can be the thing. There was a lot of hype around this record at the time. There has been. I think in terms of cultural history, you could argue that this is the right way for it to be. But then in terms of influence, maybe. But in terms of what you like to listen to, this could well be many people's view. So
I will say, and taking all that on board, I will actually say I actually prefer probably listening to Abbey Road.
I think I do. I
think it's more of an album, if that makes sense. It's not trying to be a different album. If that makes any sense whatsoever, I'm going to go controversially, knock it down into 5th. It's nowhere near the medal table.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I just think of what Paul McCartney did on these 2 albums to start with, I mean, okay, if you're a George Harrison fan, you might go for, not that I'm not a George Harrison fan, but if George is the one that you love the most, Abbey Road has got 2 exceptional George songs on, whereas Sgt. Pepper has got a very George song, within you, you know what I'm trying to say, Within You Without You.
Sure.
But of course, not as widely appealing as Something and Here Comes the Sun, but nevertheless crucial to George's whole spiritual thing. But but in terms of McCartney and Lennon, I think it's fair to say that Lennon, after the brilliance of Strawberry Fields Forever and A Day in the Life, which I would argue is the greatest achievement of any one track on these 2 albums.
Yes.
After that, John isn't quite as strong. He does Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, which is a great distillation of the Victorian circus poster, but it's not A Day in the Life or Strawberry Fields Forever.
No.
And he does Good Morning, which I think is a lower grade Lennon song. It's clever, but it's not Lennon at his greatest. And some people may be outraged by me saying this, but I also personally don't think Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is up there with Strawberry Fields Forever or A Day in the Life. No,
I'll agree with that.
So it's not Lennon's strongest album, except it may have one of his greatest achievements in A Day in the Life, but it doesn't have anything else where you would say this is absolutely essential John Lennon. Abbey Road, again, Paul was a bit more dominant on this album, but Come Together is I think a classic John Lennon moment.
Yeah,
I think I Want You. I really like it because I like that kind of thing, but some people may not like it as much. And then there's Because, which of course is kind of groovy.
Yeah,
I think Because is better than Good Morning.
Definitely.
So then Paul. Harder to say, really, because Paul's pretty strong on here. She's Leaving Home is probably the one he'd be most proud of on Sgt. Pepper. And then on Abbey Road, the thing he'd be most proud of would probably be the medley. Particularly with Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight in the End. That would probably be what he would want to be remembered for.
So we're going Abbey Road.
Oh, it's difficult. I think in terms of the songwriting, It's really hard. For me, as an album to listen to, I personally prefer Abbey Road. But I do completely respect why some people might be outraged that I haven't put Sergeant Pepper above it. But I'm sorry.
Trust me, Phil. If they've got this far into the video,
yeah,
then they're okay with our decisions.
Okay, so that's where we are. So that's the.
So what's our top 10 or top 11?
We just have to decide, though. Having put Sergeant Pepper below Abbey Road, we do have to decide whether or not.
Yeah, I think just for the creativity, it goes, and the concept of the whole album, it goes above Hard Day's Night.
Yeah, difficult one because I love a blast of Hard Day's Night, but
I've heard.
Yeah, here we go. So that's our top. Oh my goodness, that's our tower of fabness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the
Tower of Fab.
So the top 6.
Oh, can't we go from the bottom? Go from the bottom. Let's do the whole thing. Let's go from the very bottom.
Where we are at the bottom. So we're starting at the bottom, and we've put Let It Be at the bottom.
Is that at the bottom, really?
That's at the bottom.
Ooh. Go on then.
We then had Beatles for Sale.
Yes, yeah. You can live with that.
We then had Help.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Then
this is hard, Phil.
We put the first one above the second, which I probably agree with. It's a slightly more exciting album, I think. I think it is. And then we had.
That's the controversial one. That's the one where people are smashing up their computers.
I just think Hard Day's Night is very consistent. Even when you go through the songs that are in the film, and then you've got, for me, it is difficult because some people prefer the psychedelic Beatles, and some people prefer the early Beatles. I think I personally slightly prefer the early Beatles to psychedelic Beatles. Not that I don't like them, but that's kind of how I feel. But you're maybe the other way around.
Yeah, can we have a joint? Are we allowed a joint, whatever position they're in?
This is the hardest one because they're so different. That's the hardest one.
That's the thing. It's not Rubber Soul and Revolver where they're sort of.
No.
They're a chasm apart.
It could be two different bands almost in a way.
Yeah.
It's an early '60s beat combo against a band doing psychedelic stuff
So is
in
this
1967.
I just because I like listening to it. That's why Magical Mystery Tour was up there. But now you've got my brain hurting.
See, I've got this idea that I do want the early Beatles to be represented,
more recognised. I am willing, once again, to compromise.
Can I put one other thing in?
Go on.
This really was a proper LP. This was made up by Capitol Records in the US. The Beatles
for that reason, then, yeah. In fact, get Magical Mystery Tour and burn it. Burn it.
Okay.
Right, we've swapped that one round. So we've got a new order.
So in 7th place, Magical Mystery Tour.
Yes.
In 6th place.
Go on. Yay! Capitol Records.
In 5th place.
Yeah, I can live with that. I know people are having a fit, but...
And then the top 4.
Top 4, Pop Pickers.
Well, that's the 4 and 3. Yeah.
4 and 3. It's a great top 4, isn't it? It's not like trying to pick your best Embrace album, is it? This is actually difficult. I don't like any Embrace album, but this is, I can live with all of them choices.
It's also harder than picking the best Boston album, which is basically that the first album by Boston is the best, and they got worse each time.
Yeah,
this is a lot harder.
That one as well. Yeah.
I don't know why
Yeah.
it suddenly came out with Boston, but there you go.
I own Boston's debut album.
You do. Boston's debut album is great. I think I told you to buy it, didn't I?
Yes, I think you did. Yeah. It is good.
Yeah.
It is good, and I can live with that order. Revolver number 1, The White Album number 2, Rubber Soul number 3, and Abbey Road number 4.
And do you know what? I think I might actually be quite happy with those being the 4 if I had to go to a desert island.
If you make me do this again, I'll be sending you to a desert island.
I'd slightly be upset of not having a Hard Day's Night in there, but I would be pretty happy.
Yeah, but it's balanced off by you've got a double album in the White Album. That's 2 albums you're taking there. 5
There you
for the
go.
price of 4. There's our rundown. Controversial.
We're probably marked men now, but there you go.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
That's how it came out.
Yeah.
FAB.
We're gonna be-
Thanks for watching.
Peace out, dudes.